Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to do an update to a pretty popular story which I covered about 7 weeks ago, which is titled, A Family Comes Together to Help a Brother Blindside Wife Who Pretended Both Kids Were His. And in case you guys have forgotten, because it's about 7 weeks since that story, that's all about the family that really came together to help the younger brother in need. This is a family with I forget the number, but it's a lot of brothers and sisters. And long story short, the brother had strong suspicions to believe that his wife was cheating. And then also suspicions that the first kid wasn't his. And then when the second kid was born, without a shadow of a doubt, upon looking at that kid in the delivery room, you can all make your jokes. It's like, that kid ain't mine. And how they all came together to really help him out. I mean, it was a great... Oftentimes you hear these train wreck stories about families, but this was the total opposite. And I really enjoyed covering that one. And those of you that saw, they definitely liked it. And this update here is the one brother who wrote in, answering lots and lots of questions that you guys had in the comment section, because there were a lot about the family, the background, all that, as well as providing an update as to what things are going on right now and all that. I mean, it's not huge, but it's at the very end. And also, as you all recall, this guy's soon-to-be ex, she's a doctor, and is completely nuts. I mean, you all recall that part there. So, picking up where things left off. And by the way, guys, you can see this is long, but it's definitely, if you were interested in that story, worth your time. It says here, hello again, SSM. I'm writing this follow-up letter to address a bunch of questions and concerns from the comment section of your original video that some of my family wanted to talk about. This will obviously be a non-linear in structure, but we will try to link related questions and comments together if possible. For starters, a couple of people wanted to know some of my family's history as how we ended up in the United States and why we went to the extremes to help our sibling. My father's family moved to the U.S. from Norway in 1954 with his older brother and two younger twin sisters. My grandfather was a mechanical engineer that was hired by a big aerospace company after World War II's ending, and entrance into the Cold War caused a hiring craze for the military-industrial complex. Haven't heard that term in a while. Ironically, where they moved turned out to be an interesting place when their new neighbors were a family from Sweden, of which one of them is my great-uncle and another is my great-aunt. This world truly is a small one, as many can personally attest. Yeah, I've noticed that a lot. While my grandfather had a more mechanically calculating mind, my father had a different kind of calculating mind. According to my grandmother, he was a constant hassle in his teenage years, as he would hold my grandparents to their word when they said they would do certain things, and soon. Be it going to see a movie or out for some ice cream. My grandfather once joked that my father would get along just fine with attorneys at the business that he was working with, as seeing he has an affinity with wordings, agreements, and loopholes. My father heard this and asked if he could take him to work one day to see what they did. My father went to work the next day and inquired to their legal department to see if they would be willing to entertain this little idea. All of them said they would be delighted to host my father for a day to show him what they really did. Well, that's pretty cool. That Friday, my father spent the day basically as an assistant clerk for the office, learning how legal filings worked, the legal codex organization, and the different courts of the land. This day, as their shadow set my father on the road that would lead him to meeting my mother. After graduating from high school, my father completed his citizenship naturalization and took out some moderate student loans from the local bank to attend university and then law school in order to be hired to a local legal firm. It's amazing how when you're kids and you take a certain liking towards something, and with the right people around you mentoring you, they can help guide you in the direction of what definitely your calling is. And that's why it's so important to have mentors and people that can, a good teacher or teachers, someone that you know in the family. And sadly, so many kids are lacking that nowadays, you know? Anyway, during his third year, he was selected to attend a conference on English common law by his professor, along with a few of their classmates. This conference was a big deal in the region, as it would have several barristers, professors, and legal students from the UK to bring a different perspective to the event. My father says that at that time, he had a lingering feeling in the back of his head that he would meet someone at this get-together that would change his life. Trust your gut. It's amazing. And by the way, guys, this is going to get to stuff that's important about the family and all that. While at the conference, he and his professor struck up a conversation with one of the barristers and a professor from the UK and met one of the students that they had selected to attend. You guessed it, it was my mother. My father says the second he heard her speak, he knew that he just met the woman he wanted to marry. Smack! Oh, for goodness sake. Now, I'm glad they got together and happily ever after and all that. That's rare, but let's not get carried away here. I have to say it. You're all thinking it. Anyway, my mother, on the other hand, had said that she was initially put off by my father, as he is a rather large man who may have looked like a child when he shook it. My father is 6'4" and has always been very broad-shouldered since he was a teenager. In what world, I've never heard any woman complain about a big giant guy that's 6'4" and broad shoulders and probably hung like a fucking horse. I think she was just probably saying shit to make it a challenge to him. The professors wanted to meet up after that day's seminar for drinks, and they both agreed. After a night's worth of fun at the bar, my father got a taxi and took them all back to their hotel. My father escorted my mother to her room and asked her if she would be interested in doing something that weekend, and she probably couldn't do back home in the UK. She said she was intrigued by what that could be, and agreed on the condition that she would bring a friend as well. Sounds like he's being clam slammed. My father's idea: time to go skeet shooting on the riverbank with some local friends. My mother had obviously never seen an actual firearm before, so my father was by her side the entire time showing her what to do. She found the whole experience delightful and said that she wished that she could stay in the U.S. doing things like that. My father said he'd be happy to host her after she graduated from her law school back home. Oh, I'm sure he did. The open invitation was taken up 2 years later in early summer, all the while my parents were constantly writing letters to each other about life events and such. While she was staying at the house, he finally showed her a ring and pronounced his intent to have her as his wife as if her father permitted it. So they've been just writing letters back and forth for 2 years, and then he proposed to her. This is a very different time, and I'm glad it worked out, but God almighty, if that happened today, please. As the summer was ending, my father asked my grandparents for advice on whether he should proceed, and they gave their immediate assent. My father flew with my mother to meet her parents, and they hit it off immediately. My maternal grandfather was a pilot in the RAF in World War II, and my grandmother was a Polish-Jewish immigrant nurse when they met in an air raid where my grandfather had some minor shrapnel wounds on his face. Holy shit. Can you imagine the stories they could tell? After securing their blessing, my father proposed to my mother at Loch Ness, and they were married in North Georgia a few months later. I'm guessing they did not see Nessie popping his head out of the water. My mother applied to take the state bar exam after an entertaining bureaucratic runaround based on her UK law background while she was pregnant with her oldest sister and began working at the same law firm as my father. My mother gave birth to the first two of us, our eldest sisters, and this was the start of what my father would describe as an ever-growing circus of personalities. My mother was an only child, and we all agreed now that this led to her wish for a bigger family of her own. Well, that's putting it mildly, given how many brothers and sisters you guys have. God almighty. And thank God you guys are both attorneys and obviously high earning, because they need that money to feed all you guys and build a big enough house for all you kids. It says, my mother was an only child. I wrote that part. After my oldest brother, the one from the original post, was brought into this world, my father jokingly asked my mother if she wanted any more. While still in the hospital bed holding my brother, she immediately said yes, and my father cautiously said he would try and accommodate her wishes if that was truly what she desired. A year later, she was pregnant again, and this time it is where I joined the story with my twin sister. Well, welcome to the world, bro. My mother was staying current on legislative changes in the state, managing her own cases, and learning how to use a sewing machine that my father's mother brought for her, all while she was taking care of the family. My dad was cooking dinners more often than before, but he definitely had no problem with that since he sees the culinary arts as cathartic and uses it to distress after work. I, too, have always found cooking to be relaxing and a way to let out stress. Same thing with washing the dishes, I might add. Our dad inherited a tradition from his parents about how we all got a dog on our 5th birthday or within that week to teach us more about responsibilities as we grow up. Imagine that, teaching young kids responsibility at an early age. Whoever would have thought? Something that's been missing for a very long time, parents. This is something that all of us have brought into our families as well. While you are being introduced to school and all that brings, you're also expected to not be looking after another being that is dependent on you to feed it, train it, play with it, and eventually take some well-deserved naps with it. I will always remember my lovable moron of a chocolate lab fondly, as he taught me the value of a routine that can also deal with unexpected events like a stomach bug or when nature calls, as well as always having a buddy that will love you for your entire life. So I say, guys, you want love, get a dog. Or in my case, a couple of cats. Although, let's be honest here, you cat people know darn well that, yeah, your cats will love you, but you better keep feeding the cat and changing the litter box, or otherwise they may eat you one night. But cats, I got 2 cats. One cat's a puppy in a cat's body, so they're pretty close to dog. But a dog will stay with you to the end of the earth. You could put on 500 pounds, run out of food, that dog will stay loyal. It says also, it also prepares children for dealing with loss when your loving hound finally breathes its last breath, and how it's always best to be with them when they do. Growing up, we all made friends, but our father insisted in all of us the understanding that when the chips are down, the ones we will rely on the most will be our own family. My older brother has been my best friend ever since I manifested my own conscience when I was 3, with my twin sister being very close second. My parents made themselves very clear that while they would listen to anything we had to say, they understood that our nature as siblings, we would be talking to each other significantly more than to them. Well, that's how it's going to go. I remember, after my first car accident at 19, where I got backed into by an elderly woman in her station wagon, the first person I called was my older brother to ask who I should call next, my parents or our insurance company. Well, that's cool, again, that you're all close and can back each other up. Again, that's rare, sadly. Except for the truly mundane things, as siblings, we didn't really keep a lot of secrets from each other, since if everyone knew something, what was there to be afraid of? As an example of how tight we were as siblings, my brother, the one right after my twin and I, his first date was entirely planned up by the 3 older sisters after being given a bunch of information on his date's interests and personality. Well, that's a terrible idea. Remember, I tell you, don't take advice from women about other women. Dating, pickup, hookup, relationship, marriage, it's always a terrible idea, and right here. Growing up like this meant that by the time we were all going off to college, we were very emotionally mature people who knew how to handle themselves around other people and form proper relationships with new people. Well, aside from the older sisters giving advice on how to date, yeah, your parents did a darn good job with you guys, and that's awesome. While my father went a different route than my grandfather career-wise, he did inherit a lot from his old man, including a desire to be working with his hands when he could. When we moved to a larger house, as our family kept growing, he had a good-sized structure built to keep his home workshop. I'll call it how I see it and say that it is and will always be more traditional man, and instructed all his sons that it was our responsibility as men to either be able to solve our own problems or know who to call to help solve our problems with us. By the time we graduated high school, we were basically expected to know how to change a tire, do an oil change, be able to jumpstart a dead battery, and know how to build a small wooden structure to match a simple blueprint, clear a drain of a moderate clog, how to file our taxes, and know our civil rights and liberties as well as social obligations to our communities. Holy shit. Well, I can do most of those, but I cannot build a small wooden structure to match a simple blueprint. That's out the door. Maybe if I had to, but it sure probably wouldn't be very good. And I couldn't file my taxes at 19 years old. But although I was pretty knowledgeable about a lot of those things by 20 years old. We would attend church with him and would enjoy assisting fellow church members with building projects, cleanups around the community, and cookouts where we would be smoking dozens of racks of ribs, burgers, and hot dogs. Cool. We were also warned that we know what he is like as a man and father to 6 daughters. He told us what he would do to any young buck who put his hands on our sisters against their wishes. He said that he should expect any other father to do that or worse, so we wouldn't something to happen to our sisters, we had better not do it to someone else's. There you go. Like I mentioned in my original post, my mother is the type of lady that the feminists believe themselves to be, but in reality, she will never even come close to. Like my father did to his sons, she instilled into her daughters an understanding that her ability to have both a successful career and a very bountiful family was because both of my parents were strong, hardworking individuals who knew what they wanted when they were married, discussed important issues together, and agreed to trust each other with everything, and busted their butts to get where they were. In her own words, the best decision I ever made was saying yes to your father's proposal. No feminist would ever say that. So your mom, I remember this from the other story, is tough. I shouted out she's tough. But she's tough where she has to be, but obviously with your dad, and obviously you guys, she was a loving, feminine woman. But she could, I guess, switch it on career-wise when she had to. So that I'm okay with. That don't act like you got a dick in front of me, but if you got to do what you got to do in the real world, fair enough, honey. But with me, you're a feminine woman. And with the kids. My sisters were all instructed on what to look out for in terms of what we would today call red flags. And potential partners like infidelity, alcoholism, drug use, gambling, physical abuse, poor anger management, etc. We were all taught that while your character is what you are on the inside, your reputation always precedes you, and that is what you will be seen by other people. I wouldn't say my sisters dress like the Amish, but they aren't out about wearing modern day clothes that show off much skin as a bikini. Well, that's good. I mean, yeah, you don't have to look like a bunch of Mennonites or anything like that, or Amish. But the way a lot of gals dress nowadays, as you guys are more than aware, it's like, come on, have some pride. Of course, they consider to have themselves pride the way they dress. That said, she also instilled in her sons the understanding that if push comes to shove, we'd be there to ultimately keep our sisters out of harm's way. This mentality would eventually lead us to intervene in our sister's abusive marriage in 2021 that I mentioned in my original post. When I say abusive, I do mean it. Not like anything like my husband is abusive because he said no to an open marriage or some crap like that. Her ex-husband was talking about his own feelings of inadequacy on her, and after getting laid off from his office job in late spring 2021 and hitting the bottle instead of looking for new potential opportunities. Quite a shame, really, as he had a lot going for him and he just gave up. A bunch of people wanted to know how my brother's wife wasn't charged for assaulting him and for the breaking and entering incident. Yeah, we all remember that fiasco. For the assault, he told our sister to inform the cops that he did not want to press for battery charge since he felt like it would cause too much turmoil with the kids and didn't know if he was or was not their father yet. For the breaking and entering, he was going through the major bout of depression and thought that if he tried to include that incident in a filing, that she would be incensed to something like it again or something worse. Again, you all recall how this dude, the brothers here of the story, his freaking wife was mental. And she was a doctor, I might add, treating other people. Also, if you didn't know, having a criminal record can potentially get a medical license revoked. If a medical license got revoked before the divorce finalized, then my brother would be shafted harder for alimony, since since as an optical specialist surgeon, he made roughly twice as much as she did. Yeah, if she lost her license, then she's got to make money somehow, and he'd be paying more alimony. You bet your ass there. Speaking of alimony, the point was raised about how he had to pay it for 2 years as a result of their settlement. This was actually his suggestion in addition to a clause in the final agreement that states that the harlot is not to contact him for any reason under the sun after the divorce was finalized under penalty of financial reimbursement of said alimony. His brother and his attorney and our brother and sister, both attorneys, were very strict in the drafting of the final arrangement and got that included. So it's been around 16 months and not a peep from the harlot, but the term extended for another 8 years. She's still a doctor for now, so she can definitely afford the potential penalties as she decides to violate the agreement. Well, so far so good. The judge read the agreement several times, and before accepting it in his final ruling, he made sure the harlot understood the terms. He even told her that she said a word to my brother in his courtroom or on the courthouse grounds after he struck the gavel, he would hold her in violation that day. Why can't we have more judges like that, helping the guys, huh? Personally, I think my brother included the alimony as a final gift to the boys, since he probably wouldn't be seeing them again unless they seek him out in a way down the timeline. So the brother finally said, that's it, cutting ties with the sons. That's a tough situation. Finally, for those wondering why my mother didn't voice her concerns to my brother, I will simply say again that she has never been wrong because she doesn't share her opinions too often. Well, that's rare. A woman doesn't share her opinions too often. I can't resist saying that. She never had any proof of the harlot doing harlot things, but she did voice her concerns to my brother a few times about how she hoped that he would have a happy marriage, but that she had some reservations about her. He did hear her out, but we joke now about how at the time one head was doing a lot more thinking than the other head, but his brain wasn't the one getting the blood. Our sisters and even my wife voiced some concerns to us about my brother's ex-wife's response to minuscule errors on irrelevant things, like how on their wedding, the icing on the cake was just a tad bit off the edge of the top, so if you looked at it from one specific direction, it seemed 1/8 off-center. No shit, she was a bridezilla freaking out about the icing on the goddamn cake. Now, guess what? I've been to, sadly, many weddings, and I've eaten plenty of wedding cake, which is the only reason to go to a wedding anymore. And I don't give a shit if the icing is 1/8 off the cake. There's a little sign there, a little bridezilla. In conclusion, I will say my family isn't just about being related by blood. It is very much about the loyalty and dedication you share with your blood relations and very close friends. The will to act in support of your family defines what kind of person you are. If my brothers and sisters need me, I will drop whatever I'm doing that moment, be it work or personal life, to make sure they're okay. And I have 2 friends in my life that I would do the exact same thing for, and would wager my life that they would do the same for me. Bro, if you got that in your life, that is awesome. You really don't need a lot of people in your life, guys. If you can just have a couple people, a couple bros that you know you can count on no matter what, and family you can trust, you know, I'd take that any day than having 50 so-called friends that, you know, you can't be 100% sure of. Less is more. He says, be a part of a community that works together so you have support in your life. At some point, we all need someone to help us, be they family or friends. When you need them most, you can depend on those who share your loyalty. So that is it, guys. Like I said, it wasn't much of an update, a little minor update at the end, but just more about the family background, because it was such a unique story, a unique situation. I'm so happy this guy who went through all this shit has his family there, and that will help him, that support group, to really move on from all this, because he's not going to get over everything that happened, the cheating, all the drama, realizing that sons weren't his. I mean, obviously by son number 2 was born, it was like the delivery room was like, holy shit, that ain't my kid, that looks like the UPS driver, you know. But still, it's going to take time, but he's going to be okay. If you all work together and love and support each other, he's going to be okay. And I guarantee you one day this guy will be helping you guys out with some things, because that's the thing about life. There's always some bullshit that's going to come your way. But yes, if you have people that you're close with and all that, they will help you through all life's BS that comes our way. I'm moving in 8 days officially to Florida, because I've been back and forth and a lot going on. And there has been never-ending shit going on. I got COVID last week. I didn't tell you guys. I told you I was sick. That's why I didn't do videos. I got COVID. 3.5 fucking years after the whole fiasco went down, I got it, you know? And it was like the flu. Shocker. And it was tough for a few days. Then I lost hearing in one ear because of, what do you want to call it? I got an ear clogged, and they wouldn't treat me for a week, so I was doing videos when I could barely hear this one ear. And then all this other stuff that's been going on, I kid you not, that's life. Shit happens, and I've had some friends help me out with some things and other stuff like that. So it's important to have people in your life, not because you want to use them, but people that you can help as well, and you have their back, and vice versa. So anyway, hopefully no more bullshit for me, and I can make my next Saturday heading down to Florida for 2 days with the cats in the back of the car here and starting my new life. But yes, it's great to have people in your life to help you out and do the same thing for them. But anyhow, I'm glad to hear from you. I hope your bro's doing well, and hope you all enjoy watching this video. So thanks for sharing it, and I hope more people can learn to be like this family. You know, it's really cool and rare, sadly. Alright guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below what you think about this. And guys, you got a great story you'd like to share, definitely email to me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Just give me some time to get to it, and I definitely will when I get the chance. And if you like the video, share it with your friends and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.